Ladies and gentlemen, you are now entering the Decent Christian Talk podcast. Enjoy.
Decent Christian Talk episode number 123. What's up, everybody? I'm Gabe.
I'm Josiah.
This is a show by the fans.
For the fans.
And we got a great show for you today. He's been on our show before, several times. Phil Joel is on the show today.
Who's on the show?
Phil Joel.
What? Okay. Phil Joel?
Yes. It's two words, two names. As
okay.
I learned.
I'm just wondering.
All right. Well, so Phil Joel and Peter Furler have been, as you guys know, have been in the Newsboys for a long time. Peter Furler was a founding member. Phil has been in the band since the early 90s. They both kind of checked out around 2007, 2009 or so. Phil checked out first. Phil checked out first, and then Peter checked out. But the last few years, they have been back with the band in a kind of a supporting role, if you will.
The United Tour, very good show.
Very, very good show. But they are wrapping up that section of their careers, I guess, and moving on. And the Newsboys, as we know it today, with Michael Tate and Jeff and Jody and Duncan, are going off on their own and doing their own thing again. Phil and Peter are going to go and, I guess, do their own thing again. And this interview that we're going to have today is going to be talking a little bit about that.
I'm excited for it.
Yeah, and it's a fun conversation in a coffee shop in a place close to where I live, and it's a pretty fun, laid back interview. We've had some interesting, unique locations. I have to say it's probably the first time we've had one in a coffee shop.
I think a coffee talk show might be something up your alley.
It might be.
You love coffee. You love talking to people.
Yeah, it's really hard because when they the things that the frother and all those things, they're pretty loud. So
yeah, that is true. There was maybe a couple of kids running around.
Well, yeah, my son in particular was there.
I didn't want to single him out like that, but I guess we're doing that now.
It's all good. Him and Phil are cool with each other. But
okay.
Without further ado, let's head into our interview with Phil Joel.
All right, hit that horn, babe. Let's dance.
I am here with Phil Joel, and we are doing our favorite thing in the world, and that's drinking coffee. Well, at least it's my favorite thing.
It is my favorite
Okay.
thing.
It's not every day I drink coffee with Phil Joel, so that's kind of pretty cool. How are you, man?
I like the way you say my last name.
Is it, how is it, Joel? How would you say it?
I like the way you say it. I'm not saying.
All right.
It's good. You've got it.
You say it as one or two syllables?
Joel.
Phil Joel.
You kind of say it as one syllable. Yeah, I say Joel.
So Phil Joel.
I say one
two.
syllable. I say Joel.
Yeah. I feel like Brendan's kind of got it as close to me as I would say it.
Well,
but I like the way you say it. So there's no correction. No.
Okay. All right.
No, this isn't a correction. This is an admonishment to the way in which you pronounce my name.
Constructive criticism is good.
He's taking it wrong still.
I know.
We're off to a rough start.
He liked it.
All right, yeah.
So this past year has been like very weird with COVID and everything. But out of that season came an EP.
Yeah.
How was that process for you? Was that like when it first started? Did you think I need to do something with my time? Like, how did that EP how did that come out of that season?
Right. Well, it was either go and record music or go work at Walmart, So I chose the music, and actually my wife Heather, she just said, get out in the studio and work on some of these songs you've been, batting around for a little while. And I really didn't have time, because Newsboys world is, once you get on that machine, it gets really busy, and it's cool. It's a good busy, but so it was nice to have the time to work on some stuff. Yeah.
So it's called Better Than I Found It. You say that these songs have been they've been in the works for a while. Can you tell us a little bit about, specifically the title track is one of my favorite songs of the year. Where did that song come out of, and why do you think that was worthy of being the title track?
Well, I know it's kind of a jovial little song, and sounds a little Beatlesque and everything. And I do spend most of my day smiling because I'm quite happy, but I do get a little bit grumpy every now and then, and sometimes grumpiness will sort of yield, the odd song, even though it's a happy little cheerful little number. And I was a bit grumpy about the fact that I feel like so many people of faith don't really give a rip about the environment, the planet, what sort of a state we're leaving it for our next generation. You got little Judah over there, you want to make sure he's got sort of a planet to roam around on, right?
Right.
Would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Because there's no exit plan, at least for now. So so environmental issues to me are really important, and I feel like, as a believer, as someone who believes in a creator, the best way to honor our creator is to look after the creation. So that's why I wrote the song. But it can mean a lot of things to people, It's kind of an old grandparent sort of, line to spin, make sure you leave it better than you found it type thing, but there's some great truth in it, It's just good.
Talk about the line in it, you're not the only one. You're talking to a specific crowd on that, and I know you and I have talked a little bit about that in the past, but like, are you, it feels like the younger generation is very much on this topic, and it seems like the older generation has kind of ignored it. Is that who you're talking to, saying like, or just even
a little bit, but
or even just like people outside of the religious organizations?
I think everybody wants to be a part of the solution, not the problem. And so the moment you say, hey, this is an eco-friendly product, or this is good for your health and the health of the planet, people are like, oh, cool.
Right.
No one's like, oh, I don't care, it's dumb. No, everyone's like, oh, cool, this is gonna be good. I mean, we're not gonna leave rubbish, on the beach, or whatever. The moment you say, hey, I know you care about this too, people sort of, whether they've thought about it or not, they'll go, oh yeah, I do care,
Oh, okay.
So to me, the line was sort of used, I feel like the line's used to grab the attention of everyone. Hey, I'm not the only one that cares about what's going on down here, and instantly I hope everyone goes, yeah, me too.
Yeah,
I care, and hopefully it'll open up the door to a bigger conversation, because I think it needs to be opened. It needs to be opened up. Yeah.
I don't really have an in-depth conversation on this next one. I just really want to say Sailing Speed is one of my favorite songs of the year. And if you want to talk about that song real quick, like just kind of, I love that track. I love how that kicks in at the beginning, but just that like nice groove it's got going on there, the vocal, the melody, everything. It's such a beautiful song.
Cool.
What's the deal there?
I just wanted to simplify. I think we all sort of have realized a little more of what matters over the COVID period, what matters, what doesn't, what we can sort of get rid of. Sometimes you have to put everything in life on trial for its life. And, COVID definitely did that, I think. It sort of helped us put everything out on the table. Oh, is that worth my time? Because if I waste my time, I waste my life. I don't really want to waste my life. It's the only one I got. So, and then I think the bridge is kind of the thing in that song. Why do I let it get complicated? And I do. And so I think the song's more a challenge to me, moving out of COVID, moving into whatever's next, to kind of keep it simple and care about the things I care about and not worry about the other things. You know, I know that sounds kind of maybe arrogant or just like narrow, but some things are just not worth worrying about. You know, I'm not going to get drawn into political arguments. I'm not going to get drawn into certain things that are just not worth, you know, my time anymore.
Right.
Yeah, so I think I have simplified. I don't know about everyone else, but I have. It's maybe a little more blunt, actually. About time.
Is this something that you feel like you've learned over time? Like when you were younger, was this something that like, for instance, the environment or getting into arguments over trivial things? Like, is that something that you've kind of learned over time, or have you always been like that?
Have you always been chill?
I've always been chill.
Well, he's always been chill.
I'm kind of chill on the outside, but I'm pretty intense. Actually, if you sit down and chat with me for a bit, any length of time, I think I can get too intense.
Yeah.
I can get too like into stuff and too like, I can get a little wound up sometimes with things because I you know, but in my everyday human interaction, I like to stay chill. Yeah, just because otherwise no one would like me. Yeah.
So you wrote a book within the last year. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
2 years really
2
ago.
years, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
It's been a weird year.
Yeah, yeah, it's been a weird year this past 18 months.
Yeah.
I wrote it. It came out in 19. Came out in 19. Then of course the year of which we do not speak happened, and then so yeah, it's still floating around, and people are now discovering it, I think, in a new way. And
what's it called?
It's called Redwoods in Wales.
Okay.
It's funny when you write a book, you know, someone warned me at the front end, you know, they're like, when you write a book, you better believe it. You know, you better be ready to stand by it, you know, because I remember when I came out of Newsboys, I had, you know, quite a few different voices, you know, kind of the phone rang and a few different people called and said, hey, we want you to write a book. We want to call it Entertaining the Angels. I'm like, well, okay, we want to tell, you know, whatever story. And I sat down and we did one of those big storyboard things, you know, and I realized, no, I'm not ready to do this, you know, I'm really not ready to do this. I'm not ready to tell certain stories, and there are certain things that I just need to, yeah. Anyway, I digress, but writing this book, you know, it's interesting, the test of time, you know, I wrote it 2018, came out 2019, here we are in 21, and I still stand by it, you know. It's really about helping people get into the groove of back into the groove if they've lost it, of where they're meant to be in life,
right?
You know, back into the flow. So, because it's easy to get off course, and you know, so the book dives into certain things that pull us away from where we're meant to be, and it uses an illustration based on a story, based on something that happened to me. I was on a beach in Northern California, and I was taking a walk along there, and it was dark, it was late at night, and I went to walk around a big pile of rocks, and it turns out the rocks weren't rocks, it was a whale. And these whales, they get distracted, and they get off course, and they get disoriented, they get disillusioned, and before they know it, they're breathing shallow and dying slow, you know. And that's kind of the metaphor, you know, that I use, because a lot of us find ourselves breathing shallow, dying slowly, and and we want to get back into where the life is, to where it's happening. So that's what the book's about: redwoods and whales.
You've written a lot of songs. How would you compare the creative process of writing some songs versus writing a book?
Oh, it's a good question. It's kind of similar.
Yeah.
Because you want to keep people turning the page, and you want people to be interested, and you don't want to get bogged down and lose them in superfluous blah blah. And so, if anything, my error with this book would have been that it's too short. You know, because I didn't want to pad it out with stuff. I wanted people to pick it up, start reading it, turn the page, want to keep turning the page, and finish the book, and maybe read it again like Maria.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons it is so rereadable, is that you didn't pack it with fluff. It does just push you through the book.
Cool.
And so you do want to pick it back up again, because it almost becomes like I hate to say, like a study guide.
Huh.
Like, I want to come back to this, and I want to
Yeah.
just reread like this excerpt or this chapter or whatever again.
Yeah.
And that's what I find myself doing with it. I go back and I've reread certain portions of it.
Cool.
I think the way the book lays out too, it kind of draws you into some self-reflection without it bringing you down. And I think that's why I've enjoyed the book so much. Is
Cool.
It kind of brings you into the self-reflective state without making you feel depressed about yourself. And it kind of does the opposite reaction of it energizes you.
Good. Okay.
Yeah,
And
you know,
quickly.
if you think about a lot of, and I'm not saying this book is a self-help book because it's not. It's not. But if you think about a lot of self-help type books, they destroy you, then try to build you back up. And this book never does that.
That's good.
It never. It's more of like accepting where you are and who you are, but now how do you move beyond
Cool.
that? I think
Yeah.
it's-
Okay, that might be the greatest compliment of all time, because I definitely think a little bit about what it must have been like to be around Jesus, basically. You know, 2,000 years ago. I think people felt good.
Yeah.
They felt good about themselves. They
Right.
felt uplifted, and then they went away from that experience and that encounter going, okay, maybe what do I need to lose? And what can I get rid of? And what can I change? And what can maybe shift in my walk here on the planet? And rather than, feeling like garbage, and I think that's how they felt.
Yeah,
I
well,
think
when you think about the Sermon on the Mount, the attitudes and such, and you hear those things, it's not you suck, and now here's what you need to do. It's just simply here's some things to think about.
yeah.
And so...
You may be mourning, but you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
You may be in a tough spot, but you're okay.
Yep.
You're okay. The circumstances might not be okay, but you're okay.
Right.
So keep moving, and
You're blessed.
yeah.
You just keep moving.
Yeah. I think you're right.
And the thing I really like about those types of books, and I get this like out of songs too, that I haven't read for a while, maybe I'm going back to. There's always like something that I didn't notice before.
Oh, yeah?
You know,
Yeah.
when I go back, and it maybe just be that season of life that I'm in.
Yeah.
Maybe at that time it just didn't apply. Like listening to Entertaining Angels, 25 years later means something different to me. You know?
Yeah, I find the songs mean all kinds of new stuff to me. They have new sort of meanings. Even the songs, even new songs. Songs I'm writing now, or I've just written or have just come out. I go, oh, I don't know if I meant to write it about that, but yeah, that makes some sense.
Right.
I didn't mean to write the songs on this EP about the George Floyd situation, or about the fact that we're going to be so divided in this country, or the fact that I find that really interesting. Yeah, I think that's kind of a God component that comes into art, that plays into art. Especially when we just try and make art and not actually try and preach. If we just try and make art, then God breathes into it in a new way, in a wild way, and that's what it is. I think when you look at good art, you hope that it means and says different things to different generations and ages and stages. Yeah, that's my hope.
It's interesting that you said breathe, because the very first time I ever heard you sing was on a song called Breathe that came out 25 years ago this year.
Really?
On the Take Me to Your Leader
That's on Take Me to Your Leader?
Yeah, it's the very last track on the album, the Benediction Breathe song.
Is that 25 years ago this year?
I think it came out in 96 or so. Are you fact checking?
Really?
I'm fact checking.
Okay, let's find out, because I was thinking about re-recording albums.
Yeah.
And I thought, when does Step Up to the Microphone come out? Because I'd be like, I'll re-record that.
Yeah.
But that was 99, so I got a little way to...
1996, Take Me to Your Leader.
Oh, wow. Okay.
March.
And it's
I feel
the
old.
first to feature bassist vocalist Phil Joel.
Yeah. So when you go back and listen to a song like that, since we're on that conversation, and I, without listening to it like right now, like what is it like for you to go back and listen to songs, especially in a time where you're being featured in a band for the first time in that way?
Right.
What is that like?
Yeah, it's pretty
experience
fun.
for you?
There's a song on that record called... Was it on that record? Cup of Tea? Was Cup of Tea on that record?
Yep.
Yeah, so I wrote the lyric on Cup of Tea, and no, Breathe. Yeah, oh my goodness, yes, Breathe. I've been thinking about that song lately, because a friend of mine is an absolute 2 on the Enneagram. gives and gives until they bleed.
Yeah.
And then, and it can be really hurtful, as a two. They're just such servant hearts, and they give and give. And then when someone turns around and says, basically, you haven't given enough, or you need to do this, or doesn't appreciate it, then it becomes very painful. And they need they need to be refreshed. They need something. They need God to breathe on them in a new way. I was thinking about that, but I had no idea what the Enneagram was back then. I'm sure it existed because it's ancient, right? But I'm not that ancient.
By the way, I just want to point this out. Take Me to Your Lyric actually released on my birthday. I was looking that up.
It was released on February 20th.
February 20th, 1996. It's fine.
From NASA in Houston.
Yeah.
We did we released it and we played in front of a space shuttle.
I forgot about that.
Wow.
Yeah, we done some crazy stuff, man. When I stop and think about it, in that tour, we came out of the ceiling.
Yeah.
The
on little spaceships.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Good times.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Newsboys, I know you've got some plans in the future. With that, as they kind of go on with what they're doing, and you're going on with what you're doing, what's that going to look like for you?
I don't know. I don't know, Gabe.
I don't know.
Yeah, I might just, go sell Amway or something. I don't know. Not sure yet. Is Amway still in the business?
I met someone like 3 years ago who sold it.
Really? Okay, well, it's an option then, isn't it? No, I'm going to keep making music. I've got a whole lot of new music that I want to write, want to record here in the next little while. And I want to do it a lot quicker than I did the last one because I took a long time, because I had to work all the controls myself on this last record, and I'm not very good at pushing all the buttons and moving the faders. But, I love the way it sounds. I'm really proud of it. But, so I've got new music to make, new touring to do. I've been playing with a podcast idea. I want to link arms with some different environmental groups, talk about some of the good work that they're doing, and maybe the podcast will be about that. But then again, I don't know. Is podcasting sort of like, is it just the thing to do when you hit a certain age?
It can be therapeutic too, and just to talk about what you care about,
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to paint too a lot more. So I just wonder if there's. Sometimes I hear myself talk and I think it's enough. Stop talking. Too much talking, Go and do go paint something or write a song. So I'm just debating right now.
Cool. Well, I look forward to hearing whatever it is you do and wherever you go with whatever direction that is. But anything you want to?
I think I appreciate your time and I'm excited to hear what you have in store. Even though we're very excited about hearing more from you.
I appreciate that. I'm just a little guy these days. Coming out with the Newsboys, it's nice. We've got big crowds and everything. But that's going to come to a close here at the end of the summer for me. And I'm just going to keep doing things independently. Unless a label comes along and makes me an offer I can't refuse, which who knows. But I doubt that very much. But I don't know. It's kind of nice to not have too many of the sort of industry voices, speaking into what it is you do, and just sort of focusing on making art and letting the chips fall where they may, because we're heading into some weird times, really interesting times, and I think nothing speaks more clearly and more powerfully than a good song. So got to try and write some better songs, Gabe.
So we were actually, Judah and I were listening to your first solo record in 2000. How was, compared to making that album, do you find yourself more refreshed not having a label? Like you prefer independent or? Yeah,
I do. Yeah, your ego wants people to pay more attention, and you always want a little pat on the back and a little sort of maybe encouragement, sort of saying, hey, you're going the right direction. But at the end of the day, I've just got to be happy with what I make, and it's nice if my family enjoy it as well. And then you sort of hope that maybe other people can benefit from it too, and try and keep it really simple and really pure. Otherwise, I get really wound up and I lose sleep. And my hair might fall out, and I'm not ready for that yet.
You don't want that.
Neither does my wife. So, keeping it simple. It all comes back.
feels personal. It was
No, yours is by choice, Brendan, right? I choose to believe that.
Half by choice.
That's right.
Yes.
It's halfway by choice.
Yes, I wake up every day and do this because it's
From
choice.
here to here, it's by choice.
Yeah.
This part, not so much.
What was the band in New Zealand that you said?
Oh, Drinkwater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was like a new find on Spotify.
Right. Well, it only just went up.
Yeah.
Right? And because I played a show in New Zealand in January,
Okay.
and yeah, I got asked to headline a festival down there, which a spot I didn't deserve, but COVID afforded me that, which was really nice because they wouldn't let anyone else into the country. So I got to play on a big stage with lots of people in my homeland, and so we had a little reunion from the band that I started with, which was Drinkwater.
cool.
Yeah, and we were just a crazy bunch of kids, making a bit of noise, and we managed to make a record, and that's how I met Newsboys. And I met the Newsboys. We opened for Newsboys back in 94, and we were finishing up, and that's why the Newsboys saw me play, and we became friends. And then a few months later, they called me and said, "Hey, get on a plane, come over here and join us, come to the dark side." And so I did. Yeah, that was back in 94, and yeah. But now the Drinkwater record is up on digitally, which is kind of nice. Yeah.
Good stuff. Cool.
Nice to have a little walk down memory lane. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, it's great. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. This is
That was our interview with Phil Joel. I'd like to thank Phil for grabbing some coffee with me and talking with Brendan and I. And Brendan makes his annual appearance on our show. How about that?
Surprise.
I think Phil has been on our show more than Brendan has.
Did you invite Brendan, or did he just happen to be there getting coffee at the same time?
He actually bought my coffee, so he kind of bribed me.
Okay, I see. Brendan, I mean, you could have brought me a coffee, but
But it was a very, very hot day and a very impromptu, spontaneous thing that happened, but it was cool, and I'm glad that Phil was open to do it, and we're so glad to have him back on the show. We had him on last time, kind of right at the beginning of the United thing, and now we're having him right at the end. So it's interesting to see where he is going to go from here. He talked about maybe starting a podcast. He and Peter, can't stay away from making music. That's going to happen. Of course, he did release he being Phil released an EP this past year called Better Than I Found It, which is really good. It came out at the beginning of 2021.
he wrote a book.
He wrote a book. It's interesting to hear what that podcast, if it happens, what that's going to be. Phil has always been someone that's talked about the environment, and so it'll be cool to hear some of his stories and some of that's not something you always hear necessarily from music artists, especially in the Christian world, but it'll be cool to hear that. And it was fun to talk with him about that over coffee.
Yeah, I really enjoyed listening to it. It was almost like you clicked record and kind of forgot the record was there. It was just a chill conversation over coffee. And
yeah,
we all get to listen.
He's a good hang, and I got to go to the show for a little bit after, and probably hear him sing "Entertaining Angels" with the band. Probably last time I'll ever get to hear that. So that's always a song that, if you listen to our last show, we talked extensively about that song. And that's just one of those songs that just kind of never goes away. Well,
he'll probably sing it again on the the DC Talk reunion tour with the Old School Newsboys and Audio Adrenaline.
Okay, let's not do that. But anyway, like to thank Phil for joining us, but we are going to head off into the sunset. We are on Twitter, DC Talk Act 2, Instagram, DC Talk Podcast, Facebook, Decent Christian Talk, and the Decent Christian Talk Podcast discussion group. And we, of course, we are everywhere you can listen to podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, wherever you like to listen to your shows. We would greatly appreciate it. And hey, we are also on Patreon, patreon.com/Decent Christian Talk. If you could help support us, we would greatly appreciate that. But we are headed off into the sunset. What
do we have a Twitch yet?
We're still working on that.
Okay. We're
still no TikTok either.
Okay.
We will catch you next time.
Don't forget to tip your waiters and waitresses. Thanks.
Don't forget to tip your waiters and waitresses. Thanks.